This is Eastmans Elevated podcast. I have on great guests that are really knowledgeable, consistently successful. We're able to dive deep down the rabbit holes of these different subject matters of shooting, of physical fitness, of mental toughness and drive. All the different skills that make up a complete hunter that you can become.
Here's your host, Brian Barney.
Hey, what's happening, guys? Well, another week, got a new podcast for you. This week's a great one. I really enjoyed this conversation. It got me fired up. So this is back at the Western Hunting Expo, and we were able to sit down with David Brinker, and he was on fire. I say we because Dan Pickar also sat in on this conversation, and Dan's just great. He makes such a great, extra on the podcast. He just knows when to jump in and has such pertinent points and so intelligent, such a great hunter himself. So I really feel fortunate when he can join in the conversation. So the three of us sit down. David Brinker, he used to work for Sitka. He started at the bottom, worked his way all the way to the top. Now he moved back to Oregon. He's working with his family, and then he's got his music career. But he's just a great guy. I met him at Sitka and have kind of kept in touch with him. But this conversation on the podcast, you guys will hear. It's just it's so motivating and inspiring, and then there's just so much great information on this one. So I listened back to this podcast, and it was just a super one. So I really enjoy it. Thanks for David for taking the time and then just really opening himself up on the podcast, for this authentic conversation. Just about a lot of it's about life and setting ourselves upright for things that we want to do and chasing our dreams, and then also we get into a ton of bow hunting, from axis deer and talk elk and coos deer, and so just a really, really fun conversation. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Sponsors for today's show, Zamberlan Boots. So Zamberlan's a new sponsor for Eastmans Elevated, but I've been using their boots now for a couple years. They have the highest quality Italian leather, just the finest craftsmanship put into their boots. And you guys know that I've been talking about these lightweight, low-cut boots. Those things are just money for the mountains. Just a pound on your feet is like 10 on your back. So I've been using their boots. I have a great wintertime boot. The ones that I really fell in love with are the Urine 252s. So they actually came out with a newer model that's going to replace those, called their Trail Lights. So I'm trying their Trail Lights this year, but I know I've tried a few different kinds of their boots and really enjoy them. So those Trail Lights are going to feel more like a tennis shoe, but have a little of support. And then if you like a stiffer boot, make sure to check out their Dukes. They're going to be a new boot this year. They're a little bit stiffer, still super lightweight, ankle high. But they just make attacking the mountains so much easier. Great waterproof quality to their boots, and I just can't say enough good things about them, their company, and the boots that they produce. So make sure to check them out. The fit is just great on them. Zamberlan Boots. The other sponsor for today's show is Sitka Gear. So you guys have heard me talk about Sitka. I just love their clothing system, and they're always evolving it. And so I'm putting my order together for this year, and I already have pretty much everything I need. They just came out with a couple new pieces that I really like, and I got to set myself up for some better wintertime gear, some better wintertime pants and things. But their systems, they just build the best technical mountaineering hunting clothing that you can get. And for any environment, for any weather, from the hot early season for antelope and high country mule deer, to the mid season hunting elk during the rut, hunting mule deer later in that September range, to all the way to their wintertime hunts. I know my buddy Dan was not outfitted very well for this late season hunt, and he froze. Like, he got pretty cold on that late season hunt. Now, Dan's tough as nails, and he'd never admit it, but I know that the gear that I had and the layering system I had I could keep warm out there. So it just makes you more comfortable, which makes you stay out longer, which makes you more effective in the field. I love their camo pattern. And I absolutely love Sitka gear. I truly believe they're building the best gear on the market. And you can put together a system fairly inexpensively if you pick the right pieces. Like, you don't need everything they make, but picking the right pieces that's universal, that'll go all the way from the early to the late season. And that's what I've done over the years, is just get a system that works, that I can layer up when it gets colder, I can layer down when it's cooler, take layers off as I'm hiking so I'm not sweating. But they just build great gear. So thanks to Sitka for sponsoring the podcast. And over there at Eastman's, fun, in touch with those guys. We're going to put together a couple podcasts. We've got some good ones coming up. I'm so psyched for New Zealand. I can't wait to get my bags packed and get out of here and go experience the Southern Alps up high in those mountains. So I'm really looking forward to that. Bow shooting lights out, getting in good miles, skiing and running, and just enjoying life. But over there at Eastman's, we've got, they're going to drop like 3 new Beyond the Grid episodes. And they're 3 great episodes. We've talked about a couple of them on the podcast. They're dropping them all this week, I believe, this Friday. So make sure to be on the lookout for them. Let's see if I can get this right. So, oh my gosh, right? My memory. I know we have Scott's llama hunt. So he went in the backcountry of Wyoming. They took llamas, him and Ike. We did a podcast about it. That film is going to drop on Beyond the Grid. We also have, I just remembered the one that I forgot. We have Dan's Oregon elk. I believe this is the one he talked about where he helicoptered in early season to this vast tract of public land and hunted a bull out there early season and killed a really nice 6-point. That one's going to drop on Beyond the Grid. And then, let's see, what was the other? Oh, the other one is Dan's dad drew a premium unit in the breaks for a rifle tag. And his dad, I don't know if it's his first elk ever, but his dad, they went out there hunting. It was tough hunting. Dan talked about it on his last podcast he was on here, but his dad ended up killing a monster bull. And so that hunt's going to come out on Beyond the Grid as well. So 3 great episodes. Make sure to check those out. I'm also super psyched. I've got that Nevada hunt that we filmed for, it's going to be on the Outdoor Channel. That Nevada hunt, I think that thing came together really well. I think it's the best work I've ever produced. I think we told a really good story. It sounds like everybody was excited about it over there at Eastman's and enjoyed it. So I can't wait till we release that and get it out to you guys. So I haven't got a release date yet. I haven't even seen the rough cut. I need to get with those guys and see the rough cut. So I'm really excited to see it put together and get it released to you guys. So that ought to be a fun one as well. A lot of Eastman's info here, but we also have, we're doing our membership drive right now, so you can get a membership to both the Bowhunting Journal and the Eastman's Hunting Journal. It's $29.99, plus they're going to throw in the MRS book that has all the info about all the states, rifle, bow, where to apply, where the best units are. They're going to throw in that book, and all you have to do is text, let's see, I wrote it down here. I just got to find my notes. See, you text Elevated 319 to 22828. Again, text Elevated 319 22828. And I'm not sure how the technology works there, but I'm sure you text that in and they get you all figured out in there. So if you don't have a subscription to Eastman's, there's just so much great content in there, from our pro staff to our member stories, and then the MRS. It's just such a valuable tool for hunting out west. It just starts to give you the insight into what units are good, where the populations are, where they're killing the big ones. So it's just great information. So if you're not a subscriber, think about it, and you can text that information in, and they'll get you all fixed up. And of course, you can always call our office too. And Melanie's our customer service gal. She's just great. She'll work with you to get anything figured out. So you can always call in there for a subscription too. And yeah, with that, so this is a great podcast. I want to get this thing rolling. So yeah, I've got Dan Pickar sits in on it. We got David Brinker. I'm on the podcast as well. We're at the Western Hunting Expo, Eastmans Elevated. Here we go. Okay, I'm at the Western Expo here. We're at the Sportsman's booth. We wrangled up David Brinker for a podcast. Thanks, David.
Yeah, I appreciate
it.
you guys having me on.
Yeah,
the last time we did this was in Bozeman at the Sitka headquarters.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
And I've never gotten to do it with Dan.
Yeah, I'm excited. I just get to sit in and listen and maybe add something or just learn something.
Oh, I need to learn from you.
Me too. Yeah,
we'll all learn from each other. I can guarantee that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you've been keeping busy. How's the music going?
Dude, it's as busy as I need it to be right now. You know, it was I didn't really design it to be a full-time thing. Literally, my goal was just to record an album and write and stuff. And it's kind of turned into a bit more than that. So I'm kind of just trying to keep it where it is for now. You know, I'm working on a whole nother career. I changed a lot of things about my life this year.
Yep.
And so it's fantastic. I'm writing songs for a new album right now. So
nice. How cool. Good for you. How fun is it to work on something that you're so passionate about, that you love so much? Isn't that neat?
It's amazing.
Sitting here now. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it was pounded in my head. This is sort of cliche, but sort of not. My dad literally told me multiple times every day growing up that I can do whatever I want with my life, and that within me was whatever talent I needed to do that. And he was very serious about it. And I didn't hear a lot of my other friends' parents telling him that, but my dad was like, that was the thing. He's like, don't think that you have to do anything. So like, as I got older, you know, and I had to start deciding, like, you know, right after high school, and you got to start deciding like what you're going to do with your life. All I wanted to do was hunt and play music. That's all. And really, hunting always came first. So I wanted to be a hunter first, and I wanted to write songs. And I'd been hunting my whole life, so that was I was already kind of ingrained in that, and I already know how to do that. But songwriting didn't come into my life until I was like 20 years old. But I knew I wanted to do it, and I just did it. And I don't think I'm especially talented at it or anything. I just did it, and just, you know, I don't know. That's just kind of how my mind works. So I'm super fortunate. I'm building my life around hunting and music. That's what I always wanted to do. Like, eventually maybe I can just do those two things and not have to worry about anything, you know. For now, you know, you just figure it out. I don't know.
I want to instill that in my kids too. You know, just that you can do anything. It's just about setting your mind to it, you know. So
I think people get too hung up on, I hear it all the time, well, I'm not talented, I don't have that. You know, that's cool, you can hunt all the time, but I just don't know how to even, you know, you get to go on those cool hunts, and I couldn't write a song. And you hear these comments, and you're like, I hope you realize that I'm not any more talented than you. Actually, I might be less talented than you. Then you don't even know it, because you've never tapped into that. You've never tapped into 5% of your ability.
Never applied themselves.
No.
Yeah.
I have a friend where I grew up that is one of the most talented hunters I've ever met, including everybody I know in the industry. But he's just never, well, he doesn't want the life that maybe I do or whatever, but he doesn't take himself seriously at all. And I'm like, bro, you are so good. Like, you have more hunting talent in your fingertips than I have in my whole body. But some people just, I guess, I don't know if it's lack of believing in themselves, or maybe they just don't think that way. They think, you know, music's magical. I could never do that. But, man, I can tell you right now, I don't know that I have that much more musical talent than the average person. I really don't think I do. Music, I think, lives in all of us. That's why we all like it. Like, it's ingrained. It's part of us. And if you really want to do it, pick up an instrument and start playing it. If you want to start hunting, the best way to do it, you know what it is? Go hunting. Buy a bow.
No, that's, your biggest hurdle is yourself.
100%.
I truly believe that. And this is interesting, and it's awesome that your dad encouraged you to do you.
Yeah.
Right? And I got the opposite when I was a kid. My dad was like, you need to get a job out of college. You need to work. It's going to be miserable. That's life. It's a pain in the butt, but that's what you got to do. And I was like, nope. And
so that's interesting. You naturally had that.
Yes, I naturally had it, and I went against what he told me. And out of college, I started guiding at Dome, and I didn't have a full-time job, and I got grief from him because I wasn't a full-time worker. And I would, a couple months, I went to Hawaii for 8 weeks. And I did something. He's like, oh, you're just screwing around. And he could not believe it when I started working for Eastmans and landed that job. Could not believe it. But, number one, what helped me is I have a strong faith in God, and I think that allowed me to have faith in myself and believe in myself, exactly what you're talking about, because you yourself are your greatest hurdle. And if you can say, there's nothing in this world I can't do. If I want it bad enough, I will learn how to do it. I will talk to people until they help me, or I'll figure out how to do it from them. In reality, in the world that we live in, there's nothing stopping you from doing anything that you want to do.
It's actually pretty incredible how what you just said. I was really just trying to think about what you just said about how you are your biggest hurdle. You know, people say that because it's kind of cliche, but if you actually take it for a moment, take it seriously, it is the most true thing that we've said thus far. In terms of, for example, I was just on a podcast with Ryan Lampers. Ryan Lampers is, dude, that guy is such a great hunter. I was so impressed by him. And I'm like, bro, why are you so uncomfortable talking in front of people? Because he gets really uncomfortable. He's self-admittedly, he hates talking in front of people. I'm like, man, you're talking about elk and mule deer. You're one of the best elk mule deer hunter guys in here. You know it better than a lot of people, most people. So just be comfortable with it. But in his mind, he's like, he just told me this. I'm afraid of saying something stupid. And it's like, afraid of who? Oh, that's right. You're afraid of yourself because you're overcritical of yourself. But just realize it's going to fly over everybody's heads. When I sang this morning, I can consciously think of about 10 times I missed notes bad. No one notices.
No.
And if someone did, I'll never see them again in my life maybe. And they're never going to tell me. So really, what is there to be scared of? Like, really? And I don't know. I guess if there's that thing out there that you're thinking about that you want to do, literally just do it. Literally just do it. And you're probably going to start out like the rest of us. You're going to be bad at it. But you can't get good at something unless you're first bad at it. I don't believe that. I mean, there are a few people that, it's like, my brother has a friend who he decided to get into triathlons, and he ran his first triathlon and won it, and then all of a sudden he was on the U.S. team. Like, he was just naturally
naturally good.
And there are people like that. But for
outliers.
For most of us, you got to be bad at something before you're good at something. And you got to realize that we're all, in a way, scared of what other people think. Especially for those of us that live in the public eye, especially hunting. Hunting's, people love to critique everything about hunting, but if you can just get over that fear and just know that it doesn't actually matter at all, and that it's actually not that bad even when someone does criticize you, even though it might hurt for a second, it doesn't, like, you're not going to die.
Nope.
In fact, sometimes it may make you self-reflect and maybe change for the better, but most of the time you go, whatever. That guy doesn't like my mule deer, I don't care. Or that guy doesn't like the way I shoot my bow. I don't know. Maybe I don't care.
Not everybody's going to like me. I can't make everybody happy.
If everybody likes you, you're not being yourself.
No. And number one, I need to be happy. You guys bring up such good points. It is belief in yourself, getting rid of that self-doubt. And I'm not the most intelligent. I'm not the most talented. But believing in yourself, wrapping your brain around the concept of what you want to get good at, and then dedicating yourself to it, learning and getting better and improving. And I think that's life. But, we're so much of us, and it's everybody. Everybody is inside their own head. Everybody deals with the same issues, but it's you can't let that critique get to you or start doubting yourself or giving up before you ever get started and making excuses. Instead, you just get rolling with it, and you're going to make mistakes along the way. Failure's a prerequisite to success, and so you just have to wrap your brain around it, decide that's what you want to do, and work towards it. And sometimes it can be scary, like what you just did, to quit your job, to move to a new job, to move to a different state, to a different town. Like, it's all scary. To start a podcast, it's scary. You got to put yourself out there, and so I think.
But I actually think hunting is it's one of the most creative and failure-ridden endeavors you could do. Hunting's mostly failure. If you add up all the minutes.
Absolutely.
What do you guys think? 98% of the minutes that you hunt are failing.
Absolutely.
You're failing.
100%.
Yep.
Or waiting to fail.
So you're on the brink of failure at all times.
So maybe as hunters we just become a little bit more used to the idea of, but we know that if we fail enough, eventually we're going to get to hold that animal and be like, I did it. This, I finally did it. And then sometimes you'll have seasons where it's like, I did it a bunch and it was an amazing season. Then some seasons you're like, man, last year I was so successful, and then this year I suck. What happened? Well, that's just the way it goes. But I don't know. I almost feel like people don't think hunting is you're being creative if you hunt. Like they say, I'm not creative. I don't know, but they're a great hunter. I'm like, man, I don't know of anything more creative. Maybe you like step out in the dark in the morning. You have no idea what's going to happen. You find an animal, then you have to literally visualize with wind in mind and all the different things in mind how you're going to get over there under a certain yardage, and then you got to do all the things with your bow, and everything's got to come together, and then you have to have like God and nature on your side. What is more creative than that?
Yeah.
Like you just did something. So if you could take that same philosophy that you do hunting, you folks out there that spend all year to kill a big buck or a big bull or whatever you do, you put a lot of energy and you put a lot of focus and time and passion into that. If you could just take even just a portion of that same philosophy and that same drive and put it into whatever else you're thinking about doing, whether that be your business or another creative endeavor or whatever it is, you'd be surprised how similar those two things are.
Mm-hmm.
Life's a lot like hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You get up in the morning and you just got to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of days you'll come home and you just want to drink a cold beer because you failed. Mm-hmm. And then some days you want to get home and drink a cold beer because you know what? You freaking succeeded.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the way it is.
Yep. Should it be called hunting or should it be called creative anticipation?
Exactly.
That's what it is, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's funny to think about.
No, it is. It's such a creative endeavor from the beginning to the end. All the stuff that you mentioned, Dave, but then all the theorizing and tag thoughts
all the year,
and species.
the whole year.
How
Where am I
going to
go?
About it.
How am I going to use my points?
Yeah.
What am I going to do? Where am I going to camp? What's the wind going to be doing?
Your instincts.
Yeah.
The whole deal. And you really have to think outside the box as well. You have to think different than other people.
Yep.
And
how am I going to get away from people? What are they thinking? Where do you think they're going to camp? Where do you think they're going to be hunting? Oh, I'll go over here in this basin because I think most people will be in this basin.
I never thought of it that way, but you're so right. It's such a creative endeavor.
Dude, I think hunters are super creative, but they don't give themselves credit for it. And if they just took that out of their brain and applied it to whatever else they're trying to achieve, they'd be amazed because they're so used to failing.
Yes.
We're all so used to failing all the time.
But we're good at picking ourselves back up.
Yeah.
We don't give up.
Well, we actually, a lot of hunters I know don't even notice all the failure. You know, even when we just talk about it, you don't really think of it that way because you're so focused and you know eventually I'm going to make this happen.
Yep.
You're good at wrapping your mind around failure too, is not taking it as such a negative. I don't throw my bow. I don't get upset. I hardly even get disappointed. I try to look at it in a different light. I look at it as like, man, I got a chance to stalk in on this animal. This is thrilling. Like, that was a chance of a lifetime. Like, that's as good as it gets. That's why I bow hunt. I try to almost spin it on it, you know?
Yeah, well.
Is I try to take that failure and I try to build off it, or I try to look at it a different way. But I don't get down or I don't get depressed. Sure, if I miss a big critter, like, you know, I might be a little down about that. But my only choice or my only option, or there's two options, I can either be down on it and give up on my hunt, or I can keep going. And the sooner you pick yourself up, you get back on the horse and you get hunting, pretty soon you forget about that and you're in the hunt again.
Can you imagine if you didn't go hunting because you were scared of failing at it?
Oh, you'd never go.
You wouldn't go.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it's any different than how most people perceive the rest of life.
Yeah.
They don't get up and try it because they're so afraid of failing at it. They're afraid of what people are going to say to them. They're afraid of how they're going to feel, how they're going to criticize themselves. But this whole, I don't know how many thousands of people in here, most of them hunt, and they do that all the time already.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So just go do that in life.
Well, and I think you have to take small steps towards your goals too.
Sure.
You have this end goal that you want to get to, and you want to keep that as a goal or as a vision, but then you have to set micro goals to get there, and things don't happen as quick as we'd like them to happen.
No.
It's a marathon, you know, to try to get anything in life, to try to get anywhere. And so, like you with your music, you didn't quit your job at first and just say, I'm doing music full time, here's my out. Like, you have to work at it slowly but surely. You keep getting your name out there, you keep working at it, you set smaller goals that eventually equal, you know, your ultimate goal.
One of the things I've realized is I've hung out with more professional musicians and professional hunters and actually my college professor told me this, my college guitar teacher, he said, what do you want to do with your music? What's your goal? And I go, I don't know. Like, I can't remember what I told him, but he goes, not going to happen because there is no there.
Yep.
You're never going to get there because there isn't one. And that's, I think, hunting's the same way. Just because, you know, I remember, I don't know how I'd love to hear about your year last year, but let's just say 2 years ago when I talked to you, Dan, you're like, man, I had a great year. I killed 3 bulls. And Wyoming, Idaho, and whatever. That's an incredibly successful year, but that doesn't mean you're done. That doesn't mean you got to work any less for the next year. And actually, I would be willing to bet, I don't know this, but I would be willing to bet you learned so much from that year that you can apply to the next year. And then the next year, you learn so much that you can apply to the next year. And eventually, someday, we're all going to die. And that never ends.
Yeah, absolutely. It is, absolutely.
Yep. And I think it's why we enjoy it, too, is it's an ever-evolving endeavor.
Yeah.
And the same thing is life. Like, there's no end to it. You're constantly trying to get better, constantly trying to improve, constantly trying to be more efficient, more effective.
And
I think that's part of the fun
That's a good
of it.
point, Brian.
Yeah.
Besides people being scared of other people's judgment, the other thing that always stops them, I have people close to me that do this too, is they because they can't visualize taking smaller steps towards it, they'll be like, yeah, but I can't write a song. I don't know how to do that. Or I can't go kill an elk. I don't even know I don't know anything about elk. Well, it's like, I know. So why don't you first go down to the bow shop and let's first get you orientated with archery. And then you'll figure out what kind of arrows you like. And then you might figure out what kind of, what optics are. And then you'll decide what brand you like. And then you'll figure out what clothes you want. And then you'll figure out, maybe you'll find a friend that'll take you elk hunting for the first time. So you can kind of get a sense of, the general theory, the general philosophy around elk hunting and stuff. And then pretty soon, 5 years later, you're going to have your own spots. You're maybe going to have a harvest under your belt, maybe not. But you're learning. And then 10 years later, you're an experienced elk hunter, and you might be on this podcast. There's a lot of people in this room that are really dang good hunters that actually haven't been doing it that long, but they took the correct steps to learn. There's so much information available for people now through the internet, and that you can become whatever you want to be, but it may only be a 0.5% a day. I always tell people
it's a good way to put it.
Yeah, on the music side, when I started writing songs when I was 19 or 20, since there's people that live in places like Nashville. They do it all day, 8 hours a day. And they're going to be way better at it than I am, and I admit that. And I admire those people. But for me, I didn't have that. I wasn't going to do that. So all I needed to do, I just wanted to, 5 to 10 minutes a day, I wanted to improve at something. Whether that was maybe I wrote a lyric that was better, or maybe I had a little melody, or maybe I learned a new chord. That adds up in 15 years. And then pretty soon you wake up one day and you know how to play the guitar and you can actually write a song. It wasn't that you just write a song. I want to write a song. People get frustrated. I don't know how to write a song. I tried to write a song the other day and I can't. It's like, well, dude. I tried to kill a 350 bull the other day and I just couldn't figure out how to do it. It was like, bro, I took a guy out a couple years ago, a good friend of mine. He'd never been elk hunting before. And he's a whitetail guy, but he came out west, and we went out in Montana, and we got up on this ridge, and there's 4 bulls bugling at daylight. And long story short, 2 hours later, I'm with my buddy, and we got a bull coming around. We cut this bull off perfect, and I see his eye guards come around the hill at like 20 yards. I'm like, oh, my God, it's a giant. This guy's never been elk hunting. And I'm like, all right, buddy, draw your bow. And he draws his bow. Bull walks by, just drills it. About a 370 bull. And I know that. He doesn't even know. He doesn't. It's just a bull walked by, and I shot it, and it's amazing. So he hits the bull. It runs off, and he turns around. He's like, was that a good one? And I'm like, bro, I'm so happy. I was almost crying. I was so happy for him. I've never killed a 370 bull. But so in my mind, I was like, I had literally been waiting for that opportunity my whole life. And here's my friend. He comes the first time, and he shoots a 370 bull, which I was so happy for him. But I'm like, I wish I could convey to you how many minutes and hours and days and years of my life I've tried to get myself an opportunity like that.
Right.
And then you just got it. I'm like, dude, you don't realize how amazing that is never going to happen again. Never. Enjoy every second of it. He's like, really? That's that good of a bull? And I'm like, dude. So in those cases, obviously it can happen. But for most of us, we got to shoot some spikes and some stuff and some cows and 5 points and whatever to work our way up to that. And, so that's just how life is. You just got to take it inch by inch.
Yep. Small micro goals to get to
But
your
I do
ultimate
think
goal.
that, speaking of that, it's hard for people to wrap their heads around that too when they're getting into hunting because, because of how easy it is to access information of people being successful on big animals and stuff. And they're like, well, I want to come to Montana. Do you think I could kill a 360? And I'm like, Well, I mean, you could.
It could, yeah.
It could happen, but no, you're going to shoot a 5-point, or nothing.
Yep.
It's hard. It's not like you're not going to. You may not be on the cover of Eastmans next month, but you might be.
Yep.
There's
a chance.
You never know. I was thinking about what you're saying with, you spend a little bit of time each day. Before you know it, you have a few weeks under your belt. Before you know it, you have a few months under your belt, then years. I think society nowadays, since everything revolves under instant gratification of things, so that handicaps people the ability to do that. So what David is saying is actually a rare trait to be able to do, to put so little time in each day, which might not seem like a lot, but over the course of 15 years, you can have a great skill set because you just spent chipping away at it. And I don't think many people do that anymore.
No, it's hard for people to look at it like that.
The persistence like that.
Yep. Day in, day out, working hard towards your goals. And like you say, you don't have to commit 5 hours a day.
No.
A little bit of time each day to shoot your bow, to make sure you're in good shape, to look at your hunting spots, to take that time. And I know in today's day and age, time it is tough. Like, we're all busy with full-time jobs with kids, but we can all squeak another hour out of the day. We can all wake up a little early.
If
we
you
can all
want it bad enough, you can make the time.
Yep.
You can make the time. And that's the cool thing about it too, is being able to see that and the dedication that you can put into something. Just imagine if you took 5 minutes out of your day that you usually spend on Instagram, let's say, and worked on something. It could be woodworking. It could be music. It could be restoring a car like what I'm doing.
Yep.
All these things that you can develop that skill over a course of time that otherwise, I mean, we piss a lot of our life away on social media. That's just the fact of the matter now.
On screens.
Yes, absolutely. And that's a good little perspective check, David. Thanks for bringing that up. That really got me
My wife
thinking
and I
too.
talk about it all the time. She was raised very differently from me in that regard. Like, the hurdles in her mind don't she'll be like, yeah, but and this is, my wife has many talents I don't have, but one of my things that I bring to the relationship, which she brings a lot more, trust me. I bring that positive perspective of just take a little bit every day.
Yes.
Like, if you, she loves to crochet, and she wants to be a lot better at crocheting. She likes making things. And, it can be overwhelming if you get on Pinterest and look at these women that have been doing it, and they have these built businesses. But it's like, just find a new design, maybe like one design of every couple or a month, or whatever the little bitty micro goals are to the macro goal. But don't get so hung up on the macro goal. Just know that it's out there, and almost just kind of blind it out and focus on the micros. And it's almost like you're following a blood trail. It's like, there's a drop, there's a drop, there's a drop. If you get off the blood trail, if it's not like a perfect hit, and you just start walking circles, you're just spinning your wheels and burning energy.
Yep.
And then what happens usually? Well, if you're like me.
Back to the blood trail.
Yep. If you're like me, you end up right back in the blood trail, and you just burnt like a bunch of calories. And you got to sit down and drink water and be like, okay, you idiot. Never leave the blood trail. Follow the drops. And because it will lead you to that animal that you've been waiting for, but you're getting in a stupid rush, and you're trying to get to the pot of gold before you deserve it. You got to put the work in, follow that blood trail. And then eventually you look up and you're like, and then you got chills, and you're there. That's how setting goals is too. Just freaking follow the specks of blood, and pretty soon it adds up, and you're like, oh.
A little bit at a time, chipping away. That's another good thing. Before a season, I'll plan my hunt. My fall's planned out. I'll have 17 hunts to go on. And thinking about it before season even starts, you feel overwhelmed. It's how much time you're going to be away, and how much, you all know how much work it takes. But if you take each hunt a day at a time, and you don't look at the end goal or at the end of the season, all of a sudden you turn into a marathon, and it seems completely achievable, way easier. And so that's another good perspective check on outlook.
Do you guys know who, well, it doesn't really matter, but I heard a theory on paying off debt one time. You pay off the smallest credit card first.
Yep.
You don't worry about the big credit card. You pay off the $500 one first. And then once that's done, you'll feel a sense of satisfaction, like, oh, I can pay off credit cards. And then you'll go for the $2,000 credit card and the whatever. And then pretty soon all your credit cards are gone. But if you just started with the $20,000 credit card, it's overwhelming. How are you ever going to pay that off, you know?
Yep.
So, I would like to think that's kind of where piggy banks came from for kids. Like my kids look at their piggy bank, they just want what's inside of it. My son wanted so badly to open it up the other day. He's like, but I go to the toy store and I could get toys now. And I'm like, no, the point of it is you put stuff in it and then you forget about it. And then pretty soon, a couple years later, buddy, you'll have a lot of money in there, and you'll not even toys. You could buy like a bike or one of those toy 4-wheelers or whatever you want. But no, don't open it yet. Just keep depositing your money in there, and then pretty soon you'll wake up one day and you'll have a pretty good savings account.
Yeah, that's it. Oh man. Yeah, and and how you do one thing in life is how you do everything too. So, if it's your hunting you want to improve in, you work at it and you chip away at it. If you're not happy in your job, you figure out a side business and you start chipping away at it in your free time. You start building something, and eventually that something will build into something bigger and something bigger yet. But yeah, it's you can't look so much at the big picture. Realize where you want to get, and then these micro goals to get there. I just think that's so important for life. I think there's so many people in today's day and age that are not happy in their job and not happy with their family life or with their wife. You just need to work to improve those and to build something else. And when you can start looking at life that way, you're right. You can truly do anything you want to do.
Anything you want to do.
Yep.
Absolutely.
There's not actually that many people that exist that are like the guy I talked about, the triathlete.
Yeah.
Dude, there isn't many.
I mean,
no,
it's
that's
a pretty,
crazy.
For the most part, we're all pretty much the same. Like, I truly believe that. Like, people always say, oh, my gosh, whoever is so talented. And I'm like, maybe. Like, yeah, for sure. They might be some naturally talented, but most people don't realize that they are too. They are. And they've never even tapped in. They've never even touched it.
Yep.
But it's there. I think we're kind of all and it may not always be. It may not be the talent you want. That's kind of the trouble sometimes. Like, man, I wish I was musically talented, but I'm just a talented mechanic. I'm like, dude, I can't even change a flat tire. I would give anything to have some mechanical ability. I suck. My wife does all. I don't even have a toolbox. She has her own toolbox. Like, you don't choose necessarily what it is.
Right.
But you can literally do anything you want.
You can learn about anything you want, and intelligence comes in different shapes and forms.
There's never been a better time to get it either.
Yeah, they're book smart, they're street smart, there's mechanical smart. But if for me, like, I'm not the most intelligent guy, but if I can wrap my head around the process or where I want to get, I can make sense of it, and I can work hard towards it. And I think that's another thing, is it's gonna be a struggle. It's not gonna be fun all the time. It's you're gonna have to work at it. Whether it's your marriage, whether it's your hunting, you're gonna be uncomfortable at times. Growth only comes from being uncomfortable.
I kind of feel like most of the time even when you have little successes, you'll kind of be on that little platform in your mind, like holding up the medal for a second. But then you got to get back off and start doing more micro goals.
You do.
The macro goal.
Yep.
It doesn't last very long. With all this said, I need advice from you. How can I apply this theory to Coues deer? Because
well, I think you're doing it. You're doing your micro goals. You're gaining experience.
My micro goal was just to find a stalk that wasn't laughable.
Yeah. Oh, man. How fun are those things to hunt, though, down in the desert?
Oh, I'm addicted. I'm going to go every year that I can.
Yeah.
It's clearly not about antler size.
No, clearly.
And they're whitetails. I mean, I don't know. They're just – well, okay, so a couple of the obvious facts. The weather's nice, and those of us that live where we live, it's nice to get in the sunshine in January.
Yep.
And, throw his T-shirt on in glass. It's like, I feel like I'm mule deer hunting, but I'm hunting Coues deer. And then sometimes there's mule deer there too, actually. Where we were, there was mule deer, which is a nice bonus. But so it's nice weather. It's like almost exactly halfway between seasons, so you want to get out anyway. But then the challenge that these things bring for spot and stalk is so intriguing for an experienced bow hunter like us. Like, it's really hard.
Really hard. But the process is so fun, right?
It's so fun.
Immersing yourself in that desert habitat,
the art of spotting. And I always say, like, hunting these different species in different habitats improves our skill set in different ways. And Coues deer improves your skill set immensely. Like, you have to, it is spot and stalk, or an exaggerated spot and stalk, where you have to find the best vantage points or you won't turn them up. You can't, still hunting through doesn't work as good. Now, sometimes there's ridge lines you have to cover and basins you have to look at. But it's a true spot and stalk where you've got to find the best vantage points, and you've got to live and die behind your glass. Those things are so tough to spot. And how much better do they make your eyes? And then moving in on them, they make your stalking game so good, because it's an exaggerated stalking game, because they're so tough to get in on that you have to make all the right moves. And one of my biggest challenges with those wily little deer is just catching up to the dang things. They come into my life and come out of my life.
Well, they never sit. They don't sit still.
No.
Well, because we go in the rut.
Yep.
And that was the problem I found.
The blessing and the curse.
Yeah. I mean, because funny story about that. So Lampers comes down. He kills a beautiful buck the second morning. The buck he was after was not the buck he killed. This one just randomly walked by. Because all of us have random Boone and Crockett Coues deer walk by us at 19 yards. He kills that buck, and there's this other beautiful buck in this basin. So I spend the next 3 days trying to find this one he was after. We'd seen it. It's beautiful. Can't find it. It's how that is. It's like they could be anywhere. Mm-hmm. It's expansive, and there's a lot of deer. So you're just picking through bucks. Nope, that's not him. Not him. Anyways, long story short, I just wanted to make a dang stalk. Mm-hmm. And, well, there was this buck we called Limpy. He had a limp on his front leg. He bedded in a good spot. So I'm like, I'm going to go after him. Brian Call was at the tripods. And Brian had killed a buck. And he was now hunting javelina and quadamundi. Mm-hmm. And he was obsessed with it. So I go down off the hill after this buck we call Limpy. I leave my tripod, my backpack. I just got my bow. It was only a 400-yard stalk. I go down there. I fail like you do on most Coues deer stalks. I don't even know where he went. And I'm hiking back up the hill. I'm hot. I'm kind of frustrated. Haven't seen the big buck in a while. And I'm coming up, and I come over the hill, and here's Lampers and Brian. They're like, dude. I'm like, what's going on? And they go, dude, the buck was just here. And I'm like, where? Lampers is like, dude, he chased a doe right by your tripod.
Oh, no.
And he just went over that draw. And then, this is the funniest part. I'm like, you've got to be kidding. 30 yards by my tripod. Made a couple little loops. And then went up over the hill. But then Brian goes, and that's not even the worst of it. So Brian, we hadn't seen any javelina. So he had a tag, but his bow was still in the truck. Just as that buck was going over the hill, here comes 3 javelina, and Brian's without his bow. He's like, what is going on? And they walk by. And so Brian's just thinking, okay, I need to go to the truck and get my bow. Well, he'd also been in Arizona. You can carry a rifle, too, for these quadamundi, which is like a weird-looking monkey thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so he'd been carrying a 17 with him for a quadamundi. And but he had put the 17 over across the draw by his tripod, and when those javelina had come by, he started walking back towards the truck to get his bow. And just as he's going down the truck to get his bow, a big quadamundi walks by him at like 20 yards, which are hard to find, and doesn't even care, just walks by him, walks off over the hill. Long story short, we didn't kill anything. In fact, we never even saw any of those animals again. So that's my Coues deer hunting experience.
That's Narnia right there.
Dude,
all that
we're
goofy
like,
stuff
what?
happening.
And then the buck went over into a draw that, like, I don't even know how he could get out of it without us seeing it. It's only about 200 yards long and about 100 yards wide, brushy. So we figured, okay, he's in there. So I just went over there and posted up. Mm-hmm. And Brian and I went over there for a couple hours, nothing. Then we start impatient. I'm like, I'm impatient. I just want to see this buck. Started rolling rocks and stuff. Never saw him again the whole week. Never saw him. Walked right by my tripod. So, don't leave your tripod.
Less is more.
You couldn't write that, David. Like, you couldn't write a better story of how, like, you couldn't get it done. That's crazy. Walk by your tripod. Those things, they're so random. You don't know where they're going to go or where they're going to head off.
No, there's no patterning.
They come into your life for a few minutes, and then they go right out of your life, and you never see them.
And you're not going to go. Well, sometimes there was bucks we saw multiple times, but the ones we were after, you didn't. They seemed to switch hot does.
Yep.
And, like, he'd be with one day, and then he'd move a whole other basin over the next day or whatever. And we'd get a glimpse of him for, like, a minute, and then he'd never see him again.
Yep.
You know. So what are you going to do? I like it when mule deer, you're like, okay, he's in his 9 o'clock bed. He's going to change at 11. Then at 1 o'clock, I'm going to go over there. That's not like that at all. At least maybe it is in December when they're not rutting. I don't know.
They're tougher to find. It's like trying to find a mule deer before he's rutting, right before that pre-rut. So you can find them. They are easier to stalk. They bed down. They stay still. But it's tougher. You don't see as many of them. You can't find the bucks. And a lot of days you won't even find a decent buck. So they can be tough that way. But the coos deer, so I have a buddy down there that I met that looked me up, that I've connected with, and now we hunted a day. I actually killed my buck in the morning. He killed a 106-incher in the evening. He had hunted every day in January down there and killed that buck that night. That day I killed mine. But we caught a good day where they were rutting good and caught a couple bucks in a good scenario. But his name's Miguel Morales. He's killed 8 bucks in a row over 100 inches with his bow down there. He is the coos master.
Dang.
So
Spot and stock?
Yes. I pick this guy's brain constantly. He's so good at it, you know.
Wow.
And so, but I watched him kill 106 in front of me. I spotted it down below me, and he made a stock down in a perfect shot. But it was a perfect scenario. It was this big mushroom tree in between us and the deer, and he was in bow range of the mushroom tree. Snuck to the mushroom tree, peeked around the branches, drew his bow, and slid out, and put a perfect arrow in him. You know, just crazy, you know. But he says the scenario you're looking for in the rut, and I run myself ragged. I maybe hunt a little too aggressive on those. I'll see a good buck, and he'll go over the rise.
You'll go over there.
And I go over there, and I try to find him.
That's what I do.
And I'm doing myself more
smart.
harm than good. But by the time I went over and chased that buck and looked for him, never found him, came back to the tripod, my buddy's seen 3 bucks and one in a perfect position, and I screwed it up because I'm out there looking for a ghost, you know. But he said the scenario that you're looking for, and this is the exact scenario where, you know, I killed my buck. I about killed 110 the day before. I got into bow range of him, got caught drawn by one of his does he was chasing, and he busted out. But he says you want to find one of those bucks that's on a hot doe, and then that hot doe beds down, and then that buck will stand there and guard that doe from other bucks. And so that's what you're looking for.
That's what Brian's was. That's how Brian killed his.
Yep.
That buck he wanted to leave, but he couldn't.
Yep. Yeah. And so he waits until he finds the perfect opportunity. So he'll see a coos he wants, whether it's a 110-incher or not. He will not go stalk it. He will not make a move on it until it is that perfect scenario, until he does see it on a hot doe or have it pinned down.
You got to have time.
Yeah, time. That's what he says, too. Yep. He says it's tough to go show up for 6-7 days and get it done. But, so that's me, is I've got to create a few more opportunities. So I've got to mix and match that patience with aggression and then just hopefully get it right. But, man, those things are a blast. I'll be down there every year, too. I absolutely love it. And I think it's the coolest thing going that not very many guys are doing.
No.
Like, it's not about the inches, you're right, but the process is so fun. And once you start hunting coos, that 100-inch rack gets you excited.
Oh, yeah.
Like, all of a sudden you can appreciate those wide chests and those antlers. And it's a whitetail, but, man, it doesn't feel like it. It's perfectly adapted to that desert habitat. It's a desert deer that's adapted over thousands of years to live in that habitat. So
impressively, too. It's a tough habitat.
And so I am just absolutely hooked. I think it's some of the coolest hunting going that guys really haven't caught on to, that you get to go hunt the very best units during the very best seasons with your bow, take on the ultimate challenge, and it's a ride. It's just pure action.
Yeah, I never saw another hunter.
Yeah, me neither.
And the cool thing about it is there's so many thousands of acres of public land down there. Yeah, speaking to Arizona specifically, that you can spread out people, you know. And from what I've seen, like there's not a lot of philosophy in the way we look for base. We just start glassing. We'll just drive to a basin we've never been to and start glassing. There seems to be deer in all of them that in the area we're in. Where Brian and Ryan killed their bucks, we drove just random road in the dark, parked first morning and just start glassing, and that ended up being our home base in the whole week. No one was there.
I've seen it hit or miss, or trying to key in on elevations, and some of the spots I see, you know, I don't find any deer, and I've got to keep going. But you're right in that they are spread out throughout that desert habitat from the valley floor to the mountain peaks. And so you just got to get in sync with those mountains and find the country that's conducive to killing them and where the population's at. But once you put that together, you're into deer every single day and into bucks every day.
It's about as addicting as axis deer, I think.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know. Axis deer, you can just get so many years of experience spot and stalking in a few days, you know?
Yep.
Dan, you're headed back there. I'm headed back there. David?
When are you going?
May 13th.
I'm going April 20-something.
June 4th.
Are you?
Yeah.
They're all pretty spread out.
So when you guys go in May and June, have you been in May? Is that when you usually go?
Yep.
Are they roaring?
Times. Yeah. Yeah. They'll be roaring April.
Will they?
Second half of April on a good year.
I went in March last year, and some of them were, but most of them weren't.
Still early.
Yeah. So they rut throughout the year because they don't have enough temperature difference to where so you'll see bucks in velvet during the middle of the rut. But my buddy's out there, and Dan knows he's been hunting it for 9 years straight.
I'm actually hoping to connect with your buddy.
Yeah, Robin.
Yeah, we've connected already, so we're hoping the days work out.
He's a great
guy. I'm hunting
guy.
on Maui
And
this
Calpo
time.
is unreal.
Yeah.
No, Robin's he's a really cool guy, and he's a great axis hunter. Those guys live in Hawaii, so they live, eat, sleep, and breathe it.
Yeah.
So they'll kill a 30-incher when it's all you want to do, and they're just in sync with the woods there. But you'll really like Robin.
Good.
He's a great guy.
And he's starting to shoot a trad bow now, I see.
He killed a pig the other
I
day.
saw
His
that,
first kill with a
That's
trad
awesome.
bow.
I reached out to him. I said, have you killed an axis with that yet? He goes, no, but there's been several failures.
Yeah. I watched one of his failures. I've got this picture blown up in my house, and I've got Robin, and he's kind of out of focus with his recurve, and then the axis buck right out for him. And I think he missed it. I hate to put him on blast on the podcast. Maybe not. But, I think he's had a few shots.
I took my recurve to Lanai last year, and I hunted the compound most of the 5 days. But one day after I'd killed a buck and a doe or whatever, I'm like, all right, I'm going to try the recurve. I shot at a doe that night. She was probably 20 yards from where she was standing when I let the arrow go. It was a 33-yard shot.
Isn't that crazy?
I'm like, this is stupid. But I'm going to take the recurve in April. It's just going to have to be a perfect situation, though. I don't know how, because they're so fast.
The place you're hunting is a pretty good location, but you're right. They're so fast that they can
even with
jump
the compound. I remember one night Barklow went out, and he came back, and I almost had to get him a psychiatrist. I'm like, we're going to fly you in a psychiatrist, man. He was just down on himself. He missed 3 bucks that night, and Barklow rarely misses. He's a very good shot. He missed 3 bucks that night. The first one was 40-something, but like quartering away, feeding, had no clue he was there. He's like, dude, my arrow got there, it's gone. Next one was a little closer, 38, same thing. Next one was like 33 or something, same thing. He came back. I mean, I thought he was done. He's like, you know what, this is stupid. But they just, even when they're not wired, they're wired.
Yeah. Well, people say shoot at a relaxed animal that's feeding. I've had that same luck where it doesn't seem to matter if they're looking at you or if they're not. Like they can jump your string either way. Yeah, I've had mule deer that have no idea I'm there, and my bow goes off, and they're gone. But axis deer are the worst at jumping your string. Yeah, they're fast twitch muscle fiber. They just get going.
Have you guys tried to call them in?
I've done it a lot.
Really? Does it work well?
It does.
Yeah.
Especially the does.
Okay. Are you doing the weird sound they do?
Yeah. But, yeah, the does will come in really vocal.
What's the sound, Dan?
I'm not going to do it on here. I'll do it on there.
Yeah.
A couple of the buddies that have showed me over the years.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, it works.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if just like calling I guess a cow elk in, if a bull was with it, it would work. You could kill a buck, but the does come in.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fawn call.
My buddies
searching.
have done good rattling too. They started rattling.
Have they really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that too. There's so many animals. They're territorial, and I haven't rattled them in, but I've called them in quite a bit. That's what you should do, David, with a recurve.
Rattle.
Is call.
Call them.
And if you can find water, I mean, it depends. Maui's probably too wet. Cowpo's too wet, so that wouldn't work. But if you were hunting maybe down by Kihei and some of that drier stuff, you could do some ambushing, and it could work. But like you said, it has to be the perfect scenario.
I was even thinking like a tree stand or something.
Yeah.
Like find a place for a
sure.
tree stand.
For sure.
I think, Robin, they've tried that. They've got some stands there too.
Yeah, that might be the ticket for you.
And two, it's learning from the natives or the locals.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I've learned so
These
much
guys,
from the people that hunt them. Just like Miguel
Yeah.
hunting coos,
Yep.
my buddy Robin, Sean, Janus. Like those guys are all excellent axis deer hunt. Like they've just been hunting Hawaii their whole life.
They're just excellent
so
hunters
good
all
at it.
around.
Excellent hunters.
The best you'll find probably in the world. I would
but
say.
I mean,
absolutely.
Because they
think
do
about
it
the
all the
practice
time.
they get.
Absolutely.
In those 5 days I hunted Lanai last year, I don't know. I might have got 50 years of stalking experience.
That's what I think.
You know what I mean? You're
Yep.
stalking
Yeah.
every 15 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why I do it. I mean, that's why I started doing this 8-9 years ago.
Yep.
And it's really helped me. If you can kill an axis buck with your bow, you can kill anything in the world, is what I say. Anything in the world, you could do it if you can kill an axis deer with a bow. Is that out of this world for me saying that?
No, I don't think so.
No, it's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you say, the experience factor. You shorten so much of the learning curve of spot and stalk because, an elk you may get 1 or 2 chances a season. Mule deer, you may get 1, 2, 3 stalks a season. But all of a sudden on access, like you say, you're stalking nonstop, and they're so good at beating you out there. And
they
and
kick
again,
your ass all
yeah,
the time.
you're failing nonstop,
Yes.
but you're learning from it, and you're getting
That was the
chances.
frustrating thing for me is, you wake up, you get at daylight. When you're mule deer hunting, sometimes at daylight you don't know if you're going to see a buck that you want to stalk that day. When you wake up access deer hunting, you're going to see a buck you want to stalk. Okay. So that whole variable's out. That's not the problem.
Yep.
Your problem is
The hard part's over.
Yeah.
And how
you where I was, like, I don't know, I could probably see 500 or 700 deer at daylight, in that valley that we were hunting. And I think there's thousands, actually. So you're not – but my biggest thing was I was so excited. I was just like, running around, the first day. And you're just jumping deer. And then they make this blowing sound that I wouldn't be able to repeat how they do it either, but it's really annoying. And the does.
and you hear it nonstop.
You know how, like, antelope make that sound? It's
Yeah, they bark.
Similar bark. And it's all day. So my first day, I was so worried, like, because I heard my first barks, and I pretty much didn't move very far my first day because I was so worried about, like, spooking things, and I had one barking at me. But pretty soon I realized, pretty much you're getting barked at the whole time.
Yeah.
And I think I actually learned that I could use it to my advantage a lot.
Oh, how'd you do that?
Well, I don't know. It's hard to describe, but I found that this did not work all the time. But there was some groups of does that would start barking at me, but out of curiosity, they hadn't quite got a grip on what I was. And I could get real low to the ground, and kind of they knew I was there, but I could keep getting closer and closer and kind of like antelope. You know how they're like, what's going on?
They want to see you, don't they?
They're curious. They're really curious.
And I was able to get in the middle. Where I was hunting, there was these ditches that ran. I don't know what. Oh, because it used to be pineapple farm. So there's all these but it's no longer pineapple farm. So there's all these ditches and stuff. So as long as you get to those ditches, you're going to get a shot.
Yep.
But getting to the ditches is really hard. But I remember this one day, I don't even know how many does were barking at me. I don't know, 50 of them. It was so annoying. And half the deer will run out of the valley, but some of them will stay, and they're kind of curious. And I found that if I get in the ditch and just start crawling real slow, they knew I was there. But they didn't know enough that I was there to, like, run off, and they got curious, and I was able to get in bow range several times like that.
Yep. I've been caught before, too, crawling, and it's almost like, I've had them just eventually ignore me. If you can hold still long enough, if they see something is not right, but they didn't really see anything, but they'll stare at you, and if you can hold still, they'll go back to sleep. I've had that, too. Clearly they caught me, but I just held still long enough, and it's amazing what you can do on your belly with them. Crawling in on them. Yeah, especially once they start laying down and they start dozing off. If you have the patience, you can crawl right up to them. Right
really?
Up to them. Yes.
Yeah. Well, and how cool is the species, too? Talk about coos deer that are adapted to the desert, but those axes perfectly adapted to Hawaii.
Yeah.
I know they're originally from India and they're non-native, but they belong in Hawaii.
Yeah.
They're there to stay.
There's
no getting rid of them. But they're such a beautiful animal. That spotted hide on them, and then that mix of like a small deer body, but then almost like an elk rack. The proportions on them, and they're so exciting to hunt. And it's tough when you hunt a new species. To not want one too bad. I find with animals, I get myself too worked up with new species, and then I make too many mistakes. You got to almost relax and let it come. And you want to be aggressive and try to make things happen, but in that same breath, you almost want it too bad or put too much pressure on yourself, and then it just starts going to hell around you.
Yeah. And the other thing that I found tough over there was, and I know that obviously Hawaii is like, well, it may be one of the most diverse in terms of environments. I think there's like 11 or something of the climates in the world. Anyways, where I was is pretty desert. Like it's the arid part of the island of Lanai, and the underbrush is really hard to. You got to make perfect shots. So that's another variable that gets added. They're really easy to lose because they burrow. There's like these little tunnels under the grass. Because when axis deer run, they get real low to the ground. It's kind of crazy if you put it in slow motion. And when they go off to die, they burrow. Like unless they obviously, if you like, pinwheel them and they just. But I'm talking about like a normal good
marginal
shot.
hit or something.
Yeah, or a marginal hit. You better have your best tracking hat on.
Oh my gosh.
It is
You
the
are
hardest
so right.
tracking I've ever had.
Yep.
I lost a buck over there. I shot a giant buck the first night I was there, and I was so proud of myself. I cut him off. I made a perfect stalk. I shot him at 23 yards through a hole in the trees, buried it to the veins right in the center of the shoulder. I don't even know which way he went. That's how brushy it was where I was. And it was sad. I looked all that night, the next morning and everything. I couldn't find anything. There was nothing. And I know he was within 100 yards or 200 yards.
Yep.
But the grass is over my head,
yeah.
and it's just tunnels.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It was depressing, but what do you do?
I shot one in Lanai just like that. It was in the tall grass in Lanai. This buck was actually standing up and eating off the tree. It's the only reason I could shoot him because the grass was way over his body or over his back, so I couldn't get an arrow in there. But he stood up to get up to that tree, and then I was able to put one in him.
Yeah.
I hit him perfect, and then we watched him run to the left and then disappeared. We looked for that buck 2-3 hours. I knew I'd hit him right, looked for it, and tried to follow the blood through that tall grass and through that stuff that you're talking. I got a perfect pass.
The
through
blood
it.
for some, especially, it's red dirt.
Yep.
So
It's
like it just doesn't show up.
Yeah.
That was tough. So we actually came away from it as interesting. I would have thought that had been a great hunt for beginners, but actually at the end of it, I'm like, I don't know if this is the greatest hunt for beginners.
Oh, you could be right.
I don't know that it is. I mean,
No.
yes, there's a lot of opportunities, but it's a technical thing.
It is technical. That's
the
a good way to
stalking's
describe
technical,
it.
the shooting's technical, everything about it is technical. So I kind of came away with a different perspective than I went into it with. I figured it would be easy. Because we were where we were, we could shoot as many as we wanted. I wanted to shoot a buck, and then you could shoot as many does as you want. They're trying to. I mean, they shoot them at night almost once a week or something to try to keep the populations down. And I thought I had visions of us just, I'd bring my recurve out one day, shoot a few, and it wasn't like that at all. I mean, I shot a buck and a doe, and it was a great trip.
Good for you. Yep.
But man, it was way harder than I thought. I mean, if you put 5,000 deer in a valley in front of someone who's been bow hunting for 35 years, that it would be not hard. No, that's not true.
Yeah, well, that's why we all like axis deer, Yeah, the degree of difficulty.
They might be my favorite animal to hunt.
They're
up there
one of
with
mine,
elk.
for
I'm
sure.
trying to figure out why, when I was younger, I was going to move to Hawaii and just live there. I love it over there. I've been going over there my whole life. I actually think if you're, as a bow hunter, what would be better than being able to bow hunt those things all year? Even if you only got to go hunt elk once a year, I don't know.
Yeah.
They got it pretty good, don't they?
They got it good. Sorry, guys. I don't want to blow you. I know that don't tell anybody that. We don't want anybody to move out here.
The word's out. We can't stop talking about whoever that goes over there because it is so much fun.
No, and it's an amazing place. I mean, it
is.
It's a truly, truly, truly magical place, and the people are super friendly as long as you're friendly. They're very friendly to you, and I don't know. I love it. I will go there every year. And this trip, my wife just got back from there for a girls' vacation. And so it's just me and my brothers and my dad going on this trip. I haven't booked my return. I'm like,
attaboy. Living on the edge.
I'm just going to buy a one-way because I don't know what happened. I might get invited to go on some. I don't know.
Good for you.
Or maybe I'll go to Kauai and hunt some goats or something.
Yeah.
too.
I like the way you think.
Yeah.
Well, and you say the axes aren't good for a starter hunt. The goats are.
Yeah,
They're not
perfect.
quite
Yeah.
as switched on.
Yeah.
They're a really cool animal. The way they have
Yeah.
spiral horns and they go wide.
Yep.
That's a great starter hunt for somebody.
Yeah, I did that with my wife a few years ago, and it was incredible. We hunted the Nepali coast on Kauai.
Oh, that's
Oh,
right.
wow.
I forgot you guys went there.
Yeah. Oh, God, what a
Remember
beautiful
that.
place. Actually, I was just on another podcast. I said New Zealand was one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to, which is true. But that Nepali coast is up there. It's unbelievable. And, yes, you're right. Other than there's some parts of it that are really dangerous,
Yeah.
But there's parts of it that aren't, and they're perfect for spot and stalk. They're not that spooky. You can kill them. It's not easy necessarily, but
No,
it's
it's not easy,
easier
but
than an axis.
The
deer.
hardest part's just getting in there to where
Yeah.
they're at.
Yeah.
Compared to an axis, they seem way easier.
Opposite
on the
end of the
scale.
spectrum. Yeah, it's the opposite end.
Yeah,
It really is.
When you're used to hunting axis, the
Yeah.
goats seem a little bit easier.
Yeah, they
but-
won't be nearly as frustrating for you.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if there wasn't that many axis, how hard they would be to kill?
Oh, my
You'd never
gosh.
kill one.
No.
Yeah, you never would.
No.
Never would.
No. Like if they were like, I don't know. I don't even know what the comparison would be. Or like if you were going on an axis deer hunt and you might see like 6 shooters in a week. That'd be tough, like a mule deer hunt or whatever. Or
It'd
maybe
be
see
so
one
tough.
shooter in a week, But so thank God they're so they mate so well. And
Yeah,
they
plentiful.
proliferate so well.
Yeah.
I just talked to my buddy. He said pretty soon there'll be over 40,000 on Maui.
Wow. And they kill thousands a year at night and helicopter killing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, where I was on Lanai, I think they told me there was 15 to 20,000 deer and 1,500 people.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
and it's cool too that Lanai City is such a deer culture. I remember driving through town, you know, and I'll admit this because I don't really care because it's just what we did. We stayed at the Four Seasons when we went there because we did. And I was actually scared to walk through the hotel with my bow and my camo on because but it was awesome.
It's a culture.
The locals are like, bro, did you kill any bucks, man? Like, I mean, obviously there's people staying there that are like, what are you doing? You know? But like, and there was a couple times I had blood all over my pants, and I'm like, hey, everybody that's rich in here. But then you go into Lanai City, and there's people driving around like gators with dead deer in the back, and there's horns everywhere on people's houses. It's a deer and a venison culture. They live on that meat.
They do.
And I'm so jealous because the meat is the gold.
It's the best.
Oh, it's so good.
I flew home with 2 of them, and I had to guard it. Once I showed my family how good it was.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. I'm hoping to do this trip to Maui. I'm definitely hunting a ranch with a friend, but he's also going to take me up in the high country and hunt some more technical country, and there's less deer, but there's some bigger bucks.
Like you say, there's so many habitats out there, and they all improve your skill set a little different way. Axis, they really improve my still hunting game.
Yes.
Because in the open country, you can spot and stalk them pretty good, which is where I love to hunt them or prefer to hunt them. But a lot of times you find them in the thicks or in different places that you can't spot and stalk.
I actually would love to.
Yep.
I love spot and stalking too, but if there was a lot of deer, I would like to try a tree stand in the trees where there's a bunch of deer walking under you. I actually think that would be kind of fun. I get really bored in tree stand if there's not action pretty much always. But if there was action and there's bucks under me all the time, that'd be really fun.
It's amazing when you can sit in a tree like that and a herd comes by, get some numbers, how vocal they are.
Oh, they are.
That you might not normally get an encounter if you're spot and stalking. I guess you would. But when you're that close for that long, and they're a vocal creature.
Talking all the time to each other, the whole herd too,
yeah,
right?
just chirping and talking.
Dan, how long do you stay? How long do you stay when you go?
At least 8 days.
Yeah.
At least 8 days. Yeah, and I've up to 6 weeks. It's been a while, but yeah, no. I like giving myself a lot of time because, like you said, you get a shot at something every day, but you're not going to kill anything every day. That's just the fact of the matter. I don't care how good of a shot you are; they're still going to school you in the ninja moves and duck your arrow.
I will not mention names, but there was folks in my camp that ran out of arrows.
Yep.
I believe it.
Bring arrows.
Yes.
Bring arrows. This is not a normal hunt.
No, my buddies tell me to bring 24 arrows when I talk to them.
And people are like, oh, what? That is not unrealistic. Please bring more arrows.
Right.
Yep. They jump your
You're not
string.
getting away bringing 5 arrows on this hunt.
A lot of it, too, they're one-time use.
Yeah,
it's
you're
all
not going to
lava
find
rock,
them. Yeah.
and they're either going to blow up or there's so much grass you're not going to find them anyway. Yeah. Yeah. Lots of arrows.
Oh, how cool. So fun to be able to relive and share these hunts with you guys that you guys do.
It's good reminiscing.
Yeah, thanks, David. It's such a great podcast, such a great conversation. It's really nice to see you, man.
I appreciate you guys having me on, man. I appreciate it. I love you guys and always have loved working with you. And Dan and I have talked about doing a trip to Hawaii for the last 10 years.
Since the beginning.
Since whenever. And someday we're going to make that happen.
Yeah,
let's all go over together.
We should just plan
Coos, Axis, whatever it is. Yeah,
let's all get together and go out, man.
Man, I'd love to. We're going to do it. So,
yeah,
all right. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Cheers.
Cool.
All right, guys. Oh, man, really fun podcast. I'm all fired up now to chase my goals and ambitions. And not that college is a bad thing, but I think having this entrepreneur mindset in life and always looking for opportunities and capitalize on them and working hard on what you really enjoy and where you really want to get in life, I think that's the answer. And for some people, college is right. They find a career that they really want to get into, and they put all their effort into college and getting the grades and applying themselves to that field, and they get the job they want. But in today's day and age, you have to be creative, but it's so nice that we have a platform now where, you can get on social media and you can make a name for yourself and you can, you can just you can be you can create anything you want to create, and you can work hard at it and be anything you want to be, and it takes a lot of hard work and dedication, but that opportunity is out there for us, and we're just so fortunate just to be born in America. Now, I know I have other countries that are listening in too. I've got some buddies in Australia, but we just have so much opportunity being born here, and to realize it and work hard towards your goals and work hard towards where you want to get. And I want to do a podcast on finances too, and keeping your debt low so you don't have to make as much and you can save all your money. But I just like setting yourself up in life financially too gives you more hunting opportunities. And not that I can buy these big time Africa hunts or sheep hunts, but I mean, I leave to New Zealand in 2 weeks and I'm going to do the whole trip for, $1,500, maybe $2,000 at most. Like, and may even do it cheaper than that. Shop for deals on flights and just all the opportunity we have across the nation, just even in the lower 48 to be able to travel to places like Arizona and New Mexico, and with the over-the-counter tags and the draw tags. We just have so much opportunity at our fingertips, even being a blue-collar working class. And so just getting our finances right and taking care of our family and our obligations there, taking care of our work, you just get your life right. And then all of a sudden you get more time to do what you love to do. And, for me, that's obviously hunting and fishing, is to get as much time doing that as I can, because we get one chance at this life and you want to make the most of it. So anyways, not to get on my high horse, David did plenty good speaking on the podcast just about chasing your dreams, as he's chasing his music dreams, and he's really put himself out there to create everything that he has. And so I just find that so inspiring, and I just want to continue that trend and continue to work hard at what I love to do. And what I love to do, one of the things is this podcast and then the filming and the writing. I'm writing an article right now. Like, I love anything to do with hunting, where I'm thinking about hunting and theorizing and trying to get better. That's what drives me. And it's also what makes me happy. Us in life, we have to have passion. And if your only passion is money, like, what are you working for? Like, for me, I'm working for personal happiness. You need money to survive, and you need money to pay bills, and you need to be in a good financial position to be able to do the things you like. But part of that's just not putting yourself into debt, not having to make as much money, not, living inside your means. But anyways, just a great podcast with David. I really appreciate that guy being on, and I want to continue to have him on. He was on fire on that podcast. I really enjoyed it. So we're going to get him on, continue to get good guests, and just continue to bring you guys next level content, next level information to make your life better, to make your hunting better. That's our mission statement and our goal here. So I get talking too quick, trying to fit in too much in these intros and endings, but it's kind of like a little personal podcast where I hit record and then whatever's in the forefront of my mind just comes out. So I really like sharing with you guys on these intros and endings. So and I also like these sponsors that support us here on the podcast. I mean, they help pay for all these adventures I'm going on. And so I use all their products. I believe in all their products, believe in them as companies. And I really appreciate you guys supporting those companies too that we have on the podcast. It just brings weight to what we're doing here. So I want to thank Zamberlan. They're a new sponsor this year, but I've been using them a couple years. God, they're just making the best boots out there. I'm really impressed. Like I say, I love that Urn 252. I've got 2 pairs of those that I've been using, and now that Trail Light is going to be their next shoe that replaces that one. So I'm really pumped to get those on my feet and get trying those out as well. So I'm going to get my order in here so I can get a pair of those. And then if you like a little stiffer boot, check out the Duke. I'm using another bigger full height boot for wintertime that's pretty stiff. It's like a mountaineering boot. I've really enjoyed them for hiking in the snow, and then for this cross-country skiing I'm doing. Man, those things are just perfect, just money. And the key to keeping your feet warm is keeping them dry. and that Gore-Tex just seems to wear out so quick. All my pairs of Zamberlan boots are still waterproof to this day, which is absolutely amazing. To be able to keep my feet dry in this wet snow, wet rain, like that's the key. And so they do a really good job with their waterproofing. Finest Italian leather, just a great boot, great company. Thanks to those guys. The other sponsor for today's show is Sitka Gear. You guys know how much I love Sitka Gear. And I'm shopping right now to place my order and to try to supplement kind of some of the stuff that I have. I wore out my puffball jacket. I need a new one of those. Need some wintertime pants. They've got that. I was telling you guys about that layer they had, that lightweight hoodie that's sleeveless. I want to get one of those. It just seems like a really good layer, but you can make do with less as well. Like just to have a few pieces of Sitka that you can layer up and use, you just get the benefit of using that technical mountaineering gear without having to wrap a fortune into it. So just look at getting a couple key pieces to your system and then try to add to it every year, is what I've, kind of the way I've approached it. So thanks. Sitka's just making the best gear out there. Make sure to check them out. And with that, Eastmans, again, check out those 3 Beyond the Grids that are coming out. Be on the lookout for that Nevada hunt of mine. It's going to be out on the Outdoor Channel. And then also, if you don't have a subscription to Eastmans, think about getting one of those. The MRS section is just so valuable. And then just the next level content about Western hunting is great. It really put out a good magazine that we all really work hard at. So if you are technologically advanced, you can do that text number. I'm still not sure how that works, but I'm sure they've got all the kinks in the system worked out. So basically, let me look this up again. So you text Elevated 319 to 22828. And it's good too if you're going to get a subscription and do it through that text. You give this podcast credit and weight, to your subscription, that this is where you heard about it, and it just shows support for the podcast for me, to Eastmans. So, anyways, if you're interested in a subscription, make sure to check that out. I think I covered all the Eastmans news, covered our sponsors. Yep. Get some podcasts ready for you guys and then take off to New Zealand, and then I'm going to record some good ones while I'm there. So I got some good guests lined up. I'm going to hunt New Zealand like a madman. Can't wait for those Southern Alps. My legs are so ready. My bow is so ready. I am so prepared, and I'm not going with a goal per se. Like, I don't even need to arrow anything. I want to see my buddies be successful, but I'm sure I'll get my chance here or there to go make a stalk or make a play on something. So I'm just super excited to show up, take a bunch of really good photos, have a bunch of laughs and fun with my friends, and just go experience New Zealand for the first time. So I am absolutely pumped for that. So that's what I'm working towards. Hiking around here, saw a one-horn bull last night. God dang it, I just didn't have enough time to make the ridge. I worked till 5, and I made the trailhead, and I had been skiing in there, and I tried to go run in there because there's some bare dirt in there. I tried to go run in there yesterday, and it took me longer to get in there. And I just got in there and ran out of time. I had to get back. I still got home at 8:30 or so, and it was dark. But I got back down to the bottom and threw my glass up there, and there was a big one-horn 6-point walking around. So I got to get back up that ridge and go find that horn. I got to go get some work done today, get this podcast done. But I'm hoping maybe this afternoon I can get back in there. Worst case scenario, tomorrow getting in there. So I got down to the bottom, saw that one-horn bull. There hasn't been any tracks in there yet, but I'm sure it's coming. So if I get beat to them, I get beat to them. And two, I like to leave those bulls up there because they're shedding right now, and they're going back on these ridge lines and shedding, and there's a big group of them. And if you go in the middle of the day and bust those bulls out of there, they're going to relocate. Well, right now they're coming back and forth in there, but it's a fine line. You leave them too long, somebody else is going to get in there, and hopefully they don't. I like to get in and not bump them and leave them there. But the truth is if you got to walk all their bedding grounds in the middle of the day where they're bedding, you're going to run into those bulls and bump them out of that location. I don't know if I'm quite ready to do that yet, but it's coming. I gotta get in there and see if I can find some of those things. So the elk are wintering good now. We had a tough February, but a lot of grass showing now. These bulls look nice and healthy. So I'm sure there's going to be some more dropping. It seems like it's happening late this year, but I'm excited to get in there. And also, it's just going to be such good training for New Zealand too. Like, hunting horns, we have a saying that you walk till you hallucinate. You just keep walking all day long, pounding through deep snow, post-holing through snow. And so it's an adventure. So I think I got my buddy Dan coming down. He's going to come down Friday. I want to do a backpacking podcast with him. And then I think I had another buddy that hit me up that's going to be around Saturday. He might join in. Whoever's welcome and whatever. I'm just going to go get to the mountains and go cover some miles and go have some fun with buddies and walk till we hallucinate. But it's going to be a good time. Fishing also is off the hook right now. I got to get to the river. So much time with daylight savings time here. So many great things to do, and then try to fit some work in between there. So thanks a bunch, you guys, for all the support. The iTunes reviews really helped me out. You guys have been putting a bunch of those on lately. I really appreciate the kind words and support for the podcast. Really support the social media, Instagram, Facebook, all is Eastmans Elevated. I got to get on there. It's been about a week. I've just been so busy here. I got to keep posting content. It's such a great place to put content, every day, free content to people, and share my pictures and stories and things. And I kind of got out of the habit here this last week. So I need to get on there today and make a couple posts and keep doing it. It's, again, that's a fine line between not being addicted to your phone and still being in touch and connected to your audience and people that you enjoy. And I love supporting you guys on there. Love reading the personal messages and when you guys are successful, but it's a fine line. I don't want to be on my phone. I look at that screen time every week and I'm horrified. It's like, how could I spend, whatever it is? And everybody's different. I mean, me right now, I'm like 2.5 hours a day on my phone. Now, some of that's on X, some of that's scouting on the couch, some of that's necessary email, text messages. But some of that's just scanning through BS, like some of it's just wasting time. And, if I take all that time for a week, you're talking 14 hours a week. Like I could get more miles in. I could get more done around the house. I can get more done at my work. And so I'm just trying to be efficient with my time, but find a good balance. So all or none is not a good balance. I need to find somewhere in the middle. So I'll work on that. But thanks, you guys, for the support. I appreciate it. Let's get this podcast out to you guys, and I'll check in with you next week. Oh, also be on the lookout. I got it Around the Campfire with Mike Eastman. I got to get that edited and out. I'll try to get it done today or maybe tomorrow early in the morning and get that out. But another great story by Mike Eastman. That guy's such a great storyteller. So be on the lookout for that. God, did I fit it? It's a 15-minute ending. I got to cut this off and shut this down. I got to be quicker and more concise. I definitely spoke quickly enough. I feel like I'm speaking 1 million words a minute, but I'll try to get better at these endings so they don't drag on too long. But thanks, guys. I appreciate it.